Okay, so I actually finished getting the rest of my parts in for the mill. I got all the oiling system, the new hoses, the new little crimp ferrules, and also the new tank for the actual pump. So we can actually get this thing together mechanically. Now, throughout these videos, some things may seem a little disjointed. That's because these have been filmed throughout the week. It's not just one day of doing this. I still have some stuff I want to do on the lathe for you guys. I still have those tool reviews in, but it's just way too packed right there because it's the only spot that I really have to keep stuff. And I can get to my lathe, but it's really uncomfortable to use. And I'll show you what I'm talking about with my mess over here. So we have the new bearings are in, all the oiling stuff is in, and we'll be able to get this together and at least mechanically get the knee or the column 100%. No electricals run yet. Haven't mounted the head, haven't even looked at that. So the head is a whole separate animal, and that's something that I'm not going to be taking apart. I'm not going to be doing a full tear down with that. I will be taking off a few pieces here and there just to clean up the inside of the belt guards, check the belts, also check some of the feeds, just check the condition of the actual the down feed, gears and all that stuff. But as far as ripping the spindle, ripping bearings, not going to happen unless there's actually something wrong with that head, and which we won't know until we get it under power. Now, as far as these other video goes, this is going to be split up into 3 parts. What we're going to do is we're going to have the actual physical assembly of the mill. So putting everything back together again. The rest of that will be one video. I'm going to have a separate video on just the oiling system, and I'm going to have a separate video on adjusting the gibs and adjusting the backlash on the screws. And we'll go through all that as we go. So if you look in this video and all of a sudden see some new oiling hoses and stuff appear, don't worry. It'll be touched upon and gone through in a separate video. That way there, people interested in those certain sections, I can put a video up just for that, and a video up just for that. They can look at just that video and don't have to watch me put together a mill. So anyway, let's start to get this back together again. I still have the saddle that I need to clean up. I haven't really touched that. So that it's actually small enough I can get it right on the bench, and we can do a good old scrub down and clean, and maybe get some better views of that than when I was doing the ram. So let me set up the camera. We'll huff that thing up here, and we'll get to scrubbing. And this is just what I mean by a mess. I mean, I have all the stuff kind of piled in the walkway between the lathe here, and while I can get in there and do some work, I'm going to clean the feed screws on there. It's just not really comfortable to be back there, and you know, when testing out equipment or doing videos and stuff, you really want to be comfortable, especially if you know, I keep thinking I'm going to back up and hit this table. You know, that's going to be a disaster. So until I get this whole area clean, which should be by the end of this weekend, we'll have the mill back together. Until then, I'm going to hold off on the lathe videos. Okay, so this here is the Y-axis feed screw, and there are bearings in here, and from the book it tells me that there's 2 in here, and they're actually pretty crunchy, probably just from laying for a while. So I had already ordered 2 new ones, and I ordered 2 new ones for this and 2 new ones for the left side of the X-axis that just don't feel really well. And I'm waiting for those to come in, but I want to take this apart first. So, because my goal for this week is to get the knee mounted so I can start working on the table. So we're going to take all this apart here. And disassembly is relatively easy here. Take off this nut, take off hand wheel, unscrew that, which of course you can't. go. Unscrew this, pull that off, that dial off, pull the dial retainer off. There's a Woodruff key right here that we don't want to lose. So I'm going to do for the time being here, just so we don't lose that. I was going to put tape around that, but never mind, that's in there. Alright, so you can see there are 3 screws that hold down this bearing retainer. So we're going to take those off. Can't write for crap today, apparently. Okay, and all these will get cleaned. Okay, so now those bearings should come right out of there if we press this shaft out thusly. Alright, put a little bit of penetrating oil in there. Oh yeah, it's moving now. There, I didn't even hit it that hard. That came right off. So we get 2 bearings in there, back to back. I'm not worried about saving these, so. There's 1, there's 2. Oh yeah. That's why we're crunchy. The grease in there is pretty much turned into peanut butter. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Alright, and these, what the hell do you say? MRC 204 FSD6. Something like that. Sorry if my head got in the way there. Yeah, these are really... There's the grease. I'll zoom in here for you. There you go. So these sat in there back to back like so, and I have 2 of them coming. I actually have 4 of these coming because there's going to be 2 on the x-axis on one side that are toast too, And everything in here looks okay though. Yep. Everything in there looks like it should. The only thing that's weird, not that it really matters, but you can see in there, that hole is off center. Not that it matters as long as the shaft goes through it. It really doesn't matter, but... And that's actually... That's not machined, that's cast. This hole here is cast. It's not machined. The only part that's machined is the pocket for the bearings. So, we got 2 new bearings. We'll wait for those to come in. And I've already got new felts. We'll be able to get the knee mounted on the machine. And go to town, start getting this puppy together. Okay, so this white background is probably going to blow the exposure on the camera, but it's the only way I got to actually keep a puddle from forming over here. So, put on the good old glovies. And let's go get a hernia. Alright, so there's a table saddle. This, you're facing the bottom of it, so this will be the side that's actually riding on the knee. And that oil block would be bolted right here, and here are all the feed hoses. We'll go into in-depth on the actual oil feed system in another video. Right now, what we're going to do is we're just going to clean this, disassemble this and clean it up. And on each end are these little aluminum brackets, and I already took one of them off, and what they hold are 2 little felts. You can see those there. And these actually, I mean, for their age, they aren't that bad. You know, the ones in my lathe had pretty much turned the consistency of wood. These are still pliable. Obviously, we're going to change them, but they do have new ones. And the only thing that holds these on is just 3 flathead screws. And you can see that's where they is. So we'll peel those off. Make sure we don't lose the screws. And these will all be cleaned up. Now you don't want to use purple power and aluminum. You want to use something else like simple green or something a little more gentle. Purple power will eat aluminum, especially if you leave it in there. You can really quickly let it be exposed as long as you rinse it off. Like I've sprayed it off and wiped it down and then rinsed it off and haven't had an issue, but you know, for general purposes, don't use it on aluminum. Bad things will happen. Now the gib's already out. It's not in there anymore. It's actually over on the side, but the screw's still in place. So I'm just going to go ahead and take out the screw. And there's our gib adjustment screw there. And now all these will be cut after the fact. Right now, what we want to do is just clean all this up. So you can see all the gunkies in there. Like I said, you're looking at the bottom here. You're looking at the side that rides on the knee. So you can see an oil passage here, straight through. And then you can see the oil grooves. And some schmutz in there. And this oil passage goes diagonally down straight through that way, and diagonally down straight through this way. So we want to make sure that those are all clean and clear while we clean this up. And the other side, here's the actual front. That's going to be facing you. This is where the lock goes. Now, I bet you we're missing... I'll have to look in the book, but I think there's supposed to be a shoe that pushes in here, unless the, actually, is this on the gib side? No, Oh, no, I lied. So there is no shoe in here. I gotta change my camera battery's dying. Okay, well, the camera ran out of juice, so I switched cameras here. So I just took off all the screws there, as I was saying, and our oil ports, one right here, which goes down and intersects with this one here. Alright, same thing on this side. Now, there should be a locking mechanism right here. There it is right there. Alright, the pin still exists in this one. So that's to lock the actual table in the Y-axis, and the table lock in the X-axis is usually on the front. Which has not the front. This is the front. Usually right here. And this just pushes on the gib to lock. I don't think there's a shoe in here. I think it's just a regular, that handle just screws in there. So you can see all the oil lines over here on this side a little bit and where they're fed from. And we'll get a better view of that when we talk about the oiling system. And I'm pretty sure my cat just knocked her toy down the stairs. The only thing that I don't get... left feet. I'm just trying to figure out the oil system. But anyway, like I said, that's on another video. So in the meantime here, we're just going to clean around these hoses. All these will be changed. We'll just clean up all this garbage. I forgot to mention that I will be blowing out all these holes with compressed air. I'm going to put a little bit of solvent in there, let it sit, and then we'll shoot it out the hole with some compressed air. Make sure all those passages are nice and clean. Okay, so this is the ram turret base here, and I'm going to clean this up so I can get it on the mill. And what's pretty cool is right here there are a ton of chips, and you know, this kind of jives with what the guy who actually ran this mill, when I talked to him, these chips kind of jive with what he was saying, where they did a lot of plexiglass, copper, brass, and aluminum turning for the apertures for the cyclotron. So that's pretty much all that's in here, really. It's a lot of plexiglass, a lot of aluminum. I see some copper and some brass. So this mill's had a relatively easy life. I mean, it was doing a lot of you know, softer materials. So I'm going to vacuum all these pockets here out, and I'm going to show you my method of getting the ways and getting all this off and making it nice and bright and shiny. And I'll show you how I did that. So I'm just going to get my vacuum and just suck out these chips, clear out the chunkies, and then we can start cleaning. Okay, so what we're going to do first is take the grease and grime off of here. And what we have in this bottle is a 5-to-1 mix of purple power to water. And we have these two scrubby sponges. Now this is gray Scotch-Brite pad, this is a green Scotch-Brite pad. The gray, I believe, if I remember right, is 2-aught equivalent of 2-aught steel wool, and green is 1-aught steel wool. Now, everybody's going to be like, oh, well, you're using steel wool on precision surfaces. You shouldn't be able to... Listen, you're not going to take any metal off of these, trust me. Plus, you're using something that's actually a bit of a lubricant. So, these ain't going to take anything off of there except for the grime and rust and dirt. So, you don't have to worry about it. You know, you would literally have to sit there and scrub and scrub and scrub for about 5 years to even take a thousandth off of this thing. And anybody that's ever used a piece of emery cloth on the lathe knows it takes a lot of time to even take off a half a thousand. So you aren't doing anything with these whatsoever. So let's give her a nice spray down here. And this may or may not take some of the paint off, depending on how old it is and how loose it is adhered from over the years of oil. Sometimes you get a whiff of that, gets in the wrong lung. But you can already see that it's starting to loosen everything up. So we'll start off with the gray, and if I need to switch to the green, we'll switch to the green. Okay, and you can see we're making a slurry of rust, grime, oil, and grease, and I'm gonna do everything, even the paint. The paint, like I said, I'm not really worried about paint job wise. All I want to do is get all the grease off of it, you know, all the buildup of years of grime and all that other stuff on there. Some spots, especially the corners, it gets, you know, a little blocked up. See, up front here is a little bit more dirty because this is the part that's actually facing the cutting. So it's going to be flipping chips and any kind of lubricant you have going on over here into it. So up front's a little bit heavier. So what I'll do is I'll switch to the green Scotch-Brite here. A little more juice. And there we go, it's taking that right off. Again, I'm not looking for perfectly, amazingly spotless mill. I'm just taking years of grime off of this. Especially off these surfaces here. You know, I'm not worried about nicks. I'm not worried about taking a little bit of the paint off. I'm just more worried about actually getting the years of buildup of cutting fluids and whatnot off of there. Alright, so it gets kind of boring watching me scrub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub all this down. Then I'm going to take a dry paper towel or rag. I'm going to wipe it down, and I'm going to take a damp one and I'm going to wipe it down, and I'll take another dry one and wipe it down to get all the purple power, as much of the purple power residue off as I can, and then we'll come back and see what we actually end up with. Okay, so now it's time for the secret ingredient for any bare metal surfaces like the ways or things like that. What we have is Barkeeper's Friend, which is actually metal polish. It's powdery and a little gritty, and like I said, it's not going to harm the ways. It's not going to take metal off, but it is going to take any of the embedded rust, and it'll take the discoloration off. And this stuff works really well on old tools, especially old scales and stuff that you see that get grimy. Like if you go to a flea market, you see a a nice Starrett 6-inch scale for like $3, but it's all rusty. This will clean it up. And what I do is just wet one of those pads. I like using the gray one, and then just sprinkle out a little bit on there and get it right on, and just start rubbing it in, and you'll see already it's starting to brighten up and lifting the tarnish off. Now you'll have to put a little bit of English on here, a little bit of little bit of pressure. You can also dump the white stuff directly on there if you want. You just kind of want to make it like a paste. That's basically what it is a polishing paste. Okay, I'm going to get a clean towel. And there you go. You can see the difference. Alright, so I'm going to do this one, and then we'll go on to the third step. Okay, so now I got them both nice and clean. That's just some staining. Now you got two problems. Number one, you may have residue from this left over. And you just stripped every ounce of oil and lubrication and grease off of this. So especially if you're in a high humidity area, this will flash over really quick. Okay, so now what you want to do is what I do is use some Brasso, which is a polish and protector. And this is going to do two things. It's going to take off and lift off any particles of this left behind. It's also going to take off any embedded rust. Like if you have a pit with rust in it, it'll kind of chemically take that off. So you'll see, as I just rub it on there, and we'll do both sides. And you just rub it in. See what that took off? So it took off all the loose particles and everything that barkeeper's friend left in there. And it got down deep and took out any embedded particles of rust in those little pits. And now it has a protective surface on here, so it won't flash over rust on you. I mean, obviously you can't let this sit out in the rain or anything like that, but in a normal environment, you're not going to get an instant flash rust. So that's how I do all of the bare metal ways. And like I said, this process works great on old tools. And this stuff is actually pretty gentle on the scales, on the actual imprinted on the scales. So let me get the ram all done, and then we can actually mount this up on the lathe. Yeah, on the mill. Okay, so I got all my nice new bearings in. We got 4 of these, just came in. And now we want to stop putting those feed brackets back together again. But I need to clean up the screws. So the good thing is that these screws here have a center hole in each end. So what I'm going to do is clean this the easy way. So we're actually going to set this up on centers, and this is the good thing about having a long bed, or a 54-inch bed on the south bend, is you can fit longer pieces in there like this. We're just putting a little piece of aluminum in there so we don't bugger anything, but we shouldn't. And we're not putting a whole lot of pressure on this, so we don't need to go crazy with it. Grab my adjustable. Okay, we're engaged, and make sure everything's locked down. And there we go. So now we can clean this screw really easily. And basically what I'm going to do is get a brush, and we'll brush off all the heavy stuff, and then we'll spray some purple power on there and scrub it. We'll get it nice and clean. It's going to get you a little over here more where the threads are. And yes, I am wearing rubber gloves, and no, you should never wear gloves when working on a lathe. But these are little vinyl latex gloves that, in all honesty, if they grab, they're not really going to suck you in. They're going to rip. Okay? So I'm wearing them because I'm going to be using some purple power on here, and I really don't want that crap on my hands. So, you know, safety Nazis, turn away if it bothers you. Actually got 90% of the chunkies out of there. So right now, some rags. And I'm just protecting my bed. That's all I'm doing with these rags. So I don't get purple power all over the place here. Okay, and so we're gonna put on there is just that little amount of a squirt. And I am wearing my safety glasses in case it starts flinging everywhere, which I really shouldn't because I didn't put that much on there. Now you can also get a piece of twine or something and get it right in those teeth, and that'll clean it all the way out. This actually works pretty good because I can start the piece of Scotch-Brite in that thread and just follow it along. And basically the goal here is just to get all the crap out of the threads. Right in between there, so you're not sucking all that into your feed nut when you go to put this sucker together. Alright, so I'm just going to clean this up until all that's out, and we'll be back after that. Okay, we got this all cleaned up, and we're just going to take some non-scientific measurements here. Just to get an idea of where on this screw, and this is the Y-axis screw, so table in and out towards you. And I'm going to take a measurement of this first full thread here, which basically never gets used, and we'll compare right in this section here, which is where I see the most wear. So we'll take the actual crest of the thread, or as well as we can get to the crest of the thread. About 75 or 80 thousandths there. We'll take the most worn section, which is probably right around here, and we're getting about 65, 70 thousandths. And I can't really get, actually, let's do this a little bit better. Reaching as far as I can with this here. Alright, so I'm getting 105 with the jaws rested on the opposite two threads. And on this one, I'm getting 100. So we have about 5 to 10 thousandths wear on those just by eyeball measurement. Nothing really scientific here, so that's not a whole lot. Okay, so the table feed screw is nice and clean now. It was too big to fit in the lathe, but what I did is this is a piece of 2-inch PVC with a cap glued on the end. We just filled this up with some water and some purple power, stuck that sucker in there, let her soak, and then took it out and just took a scrubby sponge and actually a scrub brush and just went along each individual tooth there, and all the stuff sloughed off on it. So we just left it into that tube and soak, and that's how we got that cleaned.